Welcome back, everybody. You're currently watching the Quake World Championships, the secondary stream where we're going to be capturing all the matches that players are playing today. Our last matchup was a potentially critical one, however, staying in the tournament. This matchup could be the exact same thing with CHA1N versus CNZ. CNZ already falling to Dandaking 2-1 earlier today.
Yeah, it's pretty mad, isn't it? And I won't expect anything more here. I think the only way for CNZ now, well, not that he has any more way, it's more the fact that CNZ has to defeat CHA1N in order to make it through. And I may believe it has to be a 2-0. It depends on the circumstances between CHA1N and Dandaking later on. But for CHA1N, though, for him, if he defeats CNZ, then he's guaranteed his spot. And it means that Dandaking and CHA1N will be playing for seeding. So for here, there's all about eyes on CNZ and how he performs, because this is a must-win series for him in this group.
Well, we've been told by production before we even went live that we are in and we're ready to go. If you've watched the B stream, you'll know that here it is rapid fire. It is match after match after match. We don't even get a look at the picks and bans. We're going to react to it as we see it. In this case, we're starting off with Awoken, Nyx for CHA1N, and then CNZ rocking the Ranger here. That's going to introduce a dynamic. Nyx is going to have access to that defensive play. She's going to have that Ghost Walk, which we know CHA1N, he's not afraid to be a slow player if he needs to. That's a perfect champion. Ranger, much more explosive, and that's something that CHA1N's going to have to be very mindful of. You know, I feel like he's going to have to be so much more cautious than he otherwise would be, because no Ghost Walk versus Ranger, you're in trouble. That Tri-Bolt is looking so good.
It certainly is, and at this moment in time, we saw that CNZ had a little bit of a change of style with how he's been performing in that last series, but we'll have to see if he goes back to his old ways, playing neutral, sometimes defensive with those timings. But the thing is, though, CHA1N is also very similar. It's does have quite a passive persona, has a very strong defense, but he's got such a great mental fortitude towards the game. So it's a matter of who's going to be able to break each other apart here, especially in that department. But we'll find out later on, as I'm not really too surprised. But it's been such a slow pace at this early on. But my goodness, what a way to start things off if you fell off around that rocket path.
Oh, that would have been fantastic. Well, fantastic for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely dire for CNZ. But you know, CNZ mentioned it himself in his interview. You know, himself and CHA1N are friends. They've played together before. I know this is not always going to feel great, having to take out a friend of yours in tournament, but in tournament there are no friends, only adversaries. In this case now, CHA1N. Whoa, using the Ghost Walk. Actually, that Ghost Walk could, if CHA1N was a little bit, or CNZ was a little bit more looking for it, could have punished the reappear there from Ghost Walk. Oh, that was cool. That was a cool maneuver. Almost backfired by getting hit by one last rocket, but that was a great way to put CHA1N in almost a checkmate scenario.
Just a little bit, but it seems to be okay for the time being. 2 minutes in, as CNZ does get the first initial frag here against CHA1N. But it's like I said before, when the match even begun, this is a must-win for CNZ to stay in the competition. It isn't available anymore. Mega will be up in the next 15 seconds, so got a little bit of time to go on that recovery process and, of course, get ready to prep for this next item. And it depends which item he's going to go for here, as both items, of course, in the position he's in is out of reach. It looks like he will try and go for this Mega, but CHA1N knows that he's not going to be coming round that arc. He's going to be trying to go towards that Tri-Bolt area, but in the end, they put a stop to that. And the Heavy will be up in the next couple of seconds, but the rails are looking very good for both players. Orb's not really going to do too much there, but more for just that fakery anyway, but use that Ghost Walk to get away. CHA1N very, very weak, but gets a lot of damage from the Ghost Walk, but still able to defeat him there, now 2-0.
CNZ jumping over that rocket at the perfect time as well. I was so convinced that was going to be, at worst, a trade. But no trades here. CNZ's frankly going to be 2 frags in the lead with a little bit more potentially to lead on there, as 3-0 is now the current score. And just to reiterate, in case you're a little bit late to the show, CNZ fell 2-1 to Dandaking earlier today, the other player in the group. CNZ, off the back of that lovely rail, is in a situation where this win is necessary. If CNZ does not win this series, it's pretty set CNZ will be going home.
It's absolutely crucial that he wins this series. And if he wins it 2-0, this will give him a lot of leeway and give him a lot less pressure rather than have to rely on one of these 2 players to make the decision for him in terms of his outcome and the competition. Approaching the 4-minute mark though, but CNZ is looking extremely strong at this stage. Using that Orb to fakery just to try and pick up that Mega. Now we're pushing it towards the Heavy. because Heavy's already been picked up, so at least CHA1N was able to refrain him from picking that up. But so far, no 4 minutes in, 5-0. This is a fantastic start coming out from CNZ, looking to make it 6.
Just needs one more rail, but opted to go for the tri-bolt instead. An aggressive push and no ghost walk. Now this is, sadly, not the best scenario to be in when you're playing Nyx. She is a glass cannon by every sense of the word, and I know that CHA1N is the kind of player that would relish that playstyle, but CNZ is being so assertive in his game plan, always on the items, always making chase when possible, that you've only got Ghost Walk available every so often. Now you're dealing with a medium champion, someone that's got an orb that can just turn you to paste at a moment's notice. CHA1N's having a hard time staying in the match because he frankly can't take any amount of beating.
Yeah, CNZ has already had that warm-up against Dan the King earlier on in a tournament setting, and CHA1N now, of course, this is his first match of the day. Not something he would appreciate, but we know that CHA1N has got a very good track record in terms of his on-flying performance compared to what he's like in the regular season of the Quake Pro League. 7-0 now, halfway point. Could be making it 8 here because he's in that last rail, but he uses the Ghost Walk not to let things escalate. But is it going to put a stop to that? Absolutely not. CNZ just going to bide his time with the LG, but it was railable, not for long though, as he does manage to clean him up with a shoddy.
Ghost Walk serving its purpose simply to delay the inevitable, but at least CHA1N was able to get some defensive rails before he went down. It made it so that CHA1N, or CNZ I should say, was not going to be able to push as much as he otherwise would have should he got the frag earlier on. Now, it did take about 30 seconds, and that's going to mean our Mega is going to be the next objective. Whoa, tries to go in for the orb. Doesn't manage to make it, but who cares? The rail has been phenomenal from CNZ so far. And I must say, I think a big part of that is just prediction on CHA1N's movement. These rails have come from rather interesting angles, but at the end of the day, the angles are being set up because CNZ is confident that CHA1N's going to be there. And most of the time he is. I kind of just feel like CNZ, there's that element of one step ahead that we've been seeing all map long. And just there you go again. I know you're going to retreat that way. I've got the angle set up. There you are. I take it. That one maybe not so much. You know, that's just a classic spawn trap.
It's been ruthless so far in this game. 11-0. This is like you would probably more assume that it would be more in CHA1N's favour considering his performance, but yeah, my goodness, CNZ is after blood. He clearly wasn't happy with that match against Dan the King earlier on, which was a really good series nonetheless. I recommend anyone to watch that back just to see the outcome. But 3.5 minutes in though, looking very highly unlikely that CHA1N's going to make any kind of retribution here, and still gets cleaned up now, making matters worse. 12-0 here, and CNZ is going to continue on with the amount of damage output he's done across the board.
And at this point, CNZ's going to just do everything he can to waste time. If I can make this frag take as little as possible, if I can just make it so even getting one here is going to take 30 seconds, a minute, whatever, that's a win. 11 frags in 3 minutes, I don't see that happening. So, let's talk about this performance from CNZ in map number 1. A big takeaway is that I'm getting the impression Dan the King was a wake-up call. We know that CNZ is a super talented player. We know that he's been in Pro League before. He is not a stranger to this setting, but his performance against Dan the King was not what I was expecting. Going up against CHA1N, this looks like he has shifted that gear up. You know, and it's like we're in our last chance situation. It's now or never, so if I don't bring it now, I'm out. And that can... You'd be surprised how much that can motivate a player, folks. But overall, though, just making chase. Good thing for CHA1N to keep some of this accuracy up high a little bit, I suppose. He's not going to win this map, but he is, at the very least, able to keep that execution high for the next maps.
Yeah, he's not going to take this map, but he's going to try and keep it competitive just to let him know and remind him who he's dealing with here. Still 12-4, but CHA1N is having to stuck in a rock and a hard place here around T. Looking to see if he can get one more round. He does. He may be able to get one more, but looks like CNZ has backed away. Stops him just before he picks up the heavy. So he's made it a little bit more probable in terms of the possibility of being able to bring this back, but we know it's going to be very unlikely at some stage.
Nah, if he brings this back, it's going to be the most ridiculous comeback I've seen in a very long time. A minute and a half to get 7. Now he is making chase. CNZ picked up that light armor though, and that's going to withstand one more rail, and that one rail is enough time to waste at least 10-15 more seconds. Misses the entry shot, and actually in return CNZ says, "You want to chase me down, do you? Well, eat this!" And he hits himself another rail. And there you go.
It was going to happen eventually, wasn't it? It was on a little spree, but that's just not going to happen. Minute 10 left remaining, and this is a fantastic start for CNZ. As you rightly mentioned, he seems to be a lot more on form, and I remember you saying that like you wasn't expecting this from Dan of how he performed. The reason why I expected it is because it's in his persona to actually have that track record of being able to perform so well on the first day of the first match. He's one of the very, very few players who plays their A game first thing in the morning, first thing in the day on the first day of any event. We saw it back in Romania last year, and now we've witnessed it again. So it does seem to be a trend which is going to continue to happen, and it makes me quite excited to see how this group is going to go, because this is definitely one of the most strongest groups. And for Dan to be so close to guarantee a spot into the next set, into the double elimination in day number 2, it's going to make it a very interesting double elim for tomorrow, and how the outcome's going to be, or who's going to get knocked out in this group.
Well, we've got 20 seconds left, and all we can do really is just patiently wait, because, as I said, as we saw in the last B-Stream match, I do not believe we get to see the picks and bans beforehand. We kind of react to things live as they happen. So on the off chance if anyone at home does know, by all means inform the stream chat, or if you just want to make things up, I'm sure you will. But overall, a scary performance from CNZ to start off that series, and letting us know that I'm here to stay. 14 of the heavies versus 5 for Chain. Huge amount of control for all those important items, and above all too, I think just relentless. There was never a point, especially in like that first 3 quarters of the map, before things were kind of settled by that point, where CNZ was just almost stuck to Chain, and really not respecting the Ghost Walk in any way. When it's been forced out, okay, well, I'm just going to stay with you because I've still got, like, 5 or so seconds. You're going to reappear and I'm just going to kill you anyway. And that was just a rinse repeat where, sad to say, it didn't really seem like Chain got anything out of the Knicks, rather than just delaying the inevitable and dealing with someone who has more stack and more damage than you, basically.
It's quite interesting because of the fact that we know that Chain plays quite passive, but he's got a very, very strong defense. We saw no signs of that at all, and I don't really think CNZ gave him much room to come back in the matchup anyway. We saw very early on, had the angles every single time, didn't give him any room for any chip. He had a position advantage numerous different occasions during the 5-6 minutes, and didn't really give much creative influence for Chain to try and bring that back. Like, once you got an 8-0 lead, he's probably already thinking about map number 2. The only thing you can do is just make it as competitive as possible. But this is where things are going to massively shape up, because I don't think Chain wants to be in a position now where he has to force himself to beat Dan the King in order to maybe create a tiebreaker, or maybe just try and resolve the situation in any way, shape or form. But it depends what the next map's going to be. If it's more of a larger map, maybe like, the Blood Covenants, the Molten Falls, the Ruins, then maybe for Chain he can ease himself into it a little bit more, because Awoken can be a bit of a chaotic mess at times, and I think CNZ was able to control that chaos so well, and his spawn trap was just unbelievable. Like I said before, he was stuck to a leech for the entirety of that matchup, but it's got to be on Crop to keep it, Ryan, as now CNZ already with that massive stack. We're going to see how he's going to perform. He's only got the rockets to his name, and now trying to be up against, but he's got a little bit of damage from that last rocket, but now he's going to drop down, get the light, and be able to get the heavy machine gun for some for a bit of stability there.
Well, as we start things off, a little bit of damage so far. I must say, I can hear 40 and that really screaming on the other monitor. So if you're not watching the main stream, by all means swap over. You've probably missed an incredibly interesting moment of a match. I'm very curious as to what that was. I'll ask them when it's finished. But yeah, I mean, this is the Corrupted Keep. It's all about combat, and it's all about the snowball effects. Some pretty decent rockets, but not enough to make a huge difference just yet. Yeah, CNZ. There it is, that piercing sight. And I quite like the combination. If that rocket was able to secure a frag, he would have got a split second of knowledge over where the spawn was. Sadly, he wasn't able to do it. Did manage to secure the frag anyway. But on a map like this is why I've been really interested by the current meta, I suppose, of Quake Champions, because
I was just about to say this, go on.
you never really saw Visor picked on maps like this.
Yep.
But the use of Visor, and to be honest, the importance of being able to use the piercing sight right as you secure a frag, and then have complete knowledge on where the opponent has spawned, knowing they're going to have no weapons. On a map like this, that can be huge for the snowball, but for Chain, the defensive rockets there were absolutely sublime, and now it's 1 frag apiece.
I was going to say the exact same thing. The picks today have been very fruity, haven't they? They've been quite interesting in itself, but each to their own. We'll see if it's going to help them prevail here. Now Chain's up 2-1 after a little bit of a slow start, but is able to bring that back. But we know how much or how efficient CNZ is with that LG, so it's backed away a little bit, using that dual wheel to help himself a little bit towards the Heavy. Heavy's up in 3 seconds flat. It looks like Chain has the advantage in terms of the position, which means CNZ is going to be back in the way straight away and still with a tail between his legs.
A scary game for CNZ to play, let alone staying in that part of the map with no stack, and he's been caught out there by Chain. The defensive shots are going to be all right, but I don't think it's going to be enough to keep him alive, and it will not be. 3-1 now. Chain has taken a solid lead to start off with, and now CNZ trying to prioritize getting himself an LG first, is doing a ton of damage in return. That's going to force Chain to retreat. Chain doesn't manage to get that light health bubble, sadly, so maybe that lack of extra bit of health may come back to haunt him, but no! The timing on the Heavy keeps him alive, and not only that, lets him survive the fight with 4-1.
Oh, that could have been a good rocket there to ease the blow a little bit in terms of the stack difference here after that initial frag from Chain, but that's going to be a huge amount from that previous direct. CNZ has to back away again. God almighty, this is getting worse and worse. It's basically a total role reversal from what we saw compared to the Awoken, as Chain has woken up today and is now able to stabilise a great lead so far. 5-1, picks up the Heavy, and the Mega will be up in the next 5 seconds, and he will be in position to contest this as well.
Mate, when you're hitting 2 rockets and you hit 200 damage, you know you're doing something right. Chain's damage output in this match has been unbelievable, and CNZ just has not been able to compete with that. The aggression, the pressure that's been laid on. I feel like we've got to say, you know, the control, the split between these items took place pretty early, and that can often be why the snowball effect is in full swing. There's the 2 super shotguns out of nowhere, and now that's 7-1. But this is the nature of Corrupted Keep. It's possible that CNZ can bring himself back here, but he needs some kind of game-changing fight, some kind of opportunity to land a fight, get an important item, and then cycle the control in reverse. But Chain refuses to die. He gets another one here. These rockets have looked like a right pain in the arse for CNZ, for lack of a better term, and at the very least, it looks like he's going to be able to get himself a Heavy. What weapons are nearby? I don't know. And even then, the Plasma, no! No, I just got the chance to do something and he just took it away.
Don't worry about it. I think that was probably the best term to describe the situation that CNZ's in at the moment.
It's a mature-rated game, it's fine.
It is, yeah. We're allowed.
There's a warning before the show starts.
4.5 minutes in, though, so he has plenty of time to try and win this back, but it's not really looking too good, as since Chain's woken up a few minutes ago, drops down, goes for that Heavy, a night frag to his name, and look how weak he was, Ketchup. That was so unfortunate there, but in the end, though, he's going to be able to stack back up once more. Mega's up now, actually, and he's dropping down perfect timing for it, taking a lot of LG damage, though. Needs to try and back away, but CNZ is desperate for that frag. But a little bit too desperate there, now back down to 27 HP.
Definitely starting to look like we're going into a third and final map, doesn't it?
Yeah.
With how this is going at the moment, I mean, we shall see, I suppose, but...
Third final map for us today?
I mean, I'm here for it. It's the finals for a reason, you know, we've gathered players that have been able to do well in their Challenger Cups, players that have been able to do well in Pro League and stay there all year round, and not quite able to make it into the top 8. Like, we have the mixed bag of players, but we definitely have the best of the best in attendance. And that is often why we get these close maps. It's why we get these series that go down to 2-1 or 3-2 or whatever the case may be. Chain's looking real comfortable. A lot of these fights, you know, there's been perfect calculation of how much damage you're going to take. Chain keeps surviving with barely any stack remaining, yet somehow he's always the one left standing. You know, and it just comes down to knowing the situation, being confident in your shots, hitting the shots, of course, as well. Looking for another direct there would have been very, very cheeky. Actually, at this point, CNZ hitting some good damage, but just unable to survive long enough because the return damage from Chain continues to be really strong.
Yeah, it's way too late at this point. No rocket ammo for CNZ either.
I wouldn't say so. We could see 8 frags in like 3.5 minutes because we've done before, but maybe not at this stage.
Nah, maybe another day. Just not this map anyway.
It could happen. Up until like 2 minutes or something, I'm not going to count it out, just in case.
I'll give you a tenner if he does.
You're on. Oh, no.
So no, push it with the LG. You're not taking it now.
No,
okay, I'll let you off.
That rocket's going to simply waste far too much time, mate.
10-2 now, still nearly at the 3-minute left mark.
The fake.
And he's still just having a look so far. Got all the tools in the shed, but it doesn't matter how he's going to use them. But CNZ, he's just playing it slow just to try and catch him. But he's not really the one that should be playing slow here, because he's only got 3 minutes left to try and get 8 frags to his name, and they're all going to be as clean and crisp as possible. But these defensive rockets aren't doing him any favours. Dropped down to 31 HP. Chain still bottom of that red room, trying to catch him, but the dual comes out, just going to extend his lead instead.
I got to give CNZ props though. Like, CNZ is trying to be creative with ways to set up a comeback. Even there, the fake rocket jump in this room, trying to bait Chain into maybe running down the bottom level and getting taken by surprise. Chain, of course, did not take the bait, but you know, we're trying to think about these things. And wow, dealing with that with a heavy machine gun, Chain. This is a game you really want. After going a map down at the very beginning, CNZ taking it pretty comfortably, and now you're 12-2. Feels like you just refuse to die. I guess maybe that is the Wolfenstein way at the end of the day. But it's a perfect way to even the score, because from this point now, the pressure on that final map is all on CNZ at this point. Always.
Well, it's a must-win. If he doesn't win this next map, he's going to be knocked out. But at least he'll be able to keep himself in this matchup. The only problem is the fact that in terms of his position in the groups, it's not going to work out for him much. His lifeline is going to be in the favour of Dan or Chain, depending on what the outcome is going to be in that next series. As he's still got 1:40 left on the clock, but of course we already made the incorrect assumption that he's going to take this with dominance. Well, yeah.
Oh wait,
you literally gave me the biggest fright last night.
I thought you were talking about. Earlier when we had about 6.5 minutes, and you were like, "Well, he definitely can't win now."
I think he had a bit less than that. I don't know. Oh, I can't remember.
Let's not discuss such things.
Let's agree to disagree.
Let's agree to disagree. What we can agree on though is that Chain whooped ass.
Yeah, he did.
This map. He really did. It's at 18-3 now and climbing. Honestly, the final score is ignorable. CNZ is going to be doing the thing he has to do, which is, I'm going to run in. I'm going to just get some fights in there. Players often hit a point of no return, right, where they know they're going to lose, and you can't go for the GG early. So you kind of just run in and just try and take whatever fight you can. Maybe try and get a little bit of that muscle memory. Keep it on going. Keep your hands nice and warmed up. But it does not change the result, as Chain dominantly takes out CNZ in map 2. Brings us into a final map scenario. And this is where CNZ, it's laser focus, or you're going home.
So we'll be in 2-1 and I'm all for it. 25 seconds left, but yeah, deed has already been done here for Chain. We're just waiting for him to skadoodle onto that third map shortly. But yeah, this is so important for early fans of CNZ to try and keep himself in the group stages here. Must win for that third map. As we're going to end things now, but this is a complete madness compared to what we saw from that previous map. Like, the difference in seeing it in comparison to before is just unreal. As like I said before, Chain has definitely woke up after that first initial map, and now he's looking 10 times better than what he was previously.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a bloodbath. I can't be real. That was very much what happened, and
it was rough. It was rough.
It's Corrupted Keep. You know, Corrupted Keep has that reputation and has done since 2017 that what can happen on that map is a one-time deal, because it's the only map without a rail. It's got a different flow to it because of that. It can be so snowbally. You know, up until the release of things like Awoken or Deep Embrace, it really stood out on its own for that kind of reason. But again, just to remind you, I don't believe we know what the picks and bans are on this B stream. We will simply be reacting to it live, so we'll find out what the champions in the map will be. However, the discussion surrounding that, I feel, is going to be quite different because of the pressure and the situation. Two players that are quite different to each other in terms of play style. They do tend to favor slightly different champions, if my memory serves correctly. And the map will change that so much anyway, that the fact that one map is in the balance for CNZ is quite nerve-wracking for CNZ fans, but for his sake, let's hope he can pull it through.
I hope so for his sake. It's this group was tough in itself anyway.
Yeah.
When you've got players like Dan the King with massive amount of aggression and his combat skills to boot to follow up. You've got CNZ, who's been in the Pro League numerous times in the past, Chain's still in it, and has been known for his offline track record. So, you know, this is why this is, so to speak, the group of death in terms of who's going to be able to make it to double elimination bracket tomorrow. But the thing is, though, his fate is not going to be in his hands anymore. If CNZ took down Chain 2-0, then he'd probably feel a little bit better for himself because he's guaranteed at least a tiebreaker, no matter what the circumstances are. Now he's dropped this map, he can't do anything about it. The only thing he can do is win map number 3 and then see what the circumstances are going into the match between Chain and Dan the King. But speaking of Devil, though, we're going to go straight into it. Third and final map is going to be the Galena versus the Doom. A few more fruity picks coming out here, which has been quite interesting in a best of 3 format. But like I said, I'm all for it. Like to see something a little bit different, a little bit off meta or old meta, so to speak. And we're going to start things off from Chain's perspective to see if he's going to be able to try and secure this series win.
I am interested over in a best of 3 where you have, let's be real, I think you have a pretty large amount of the champion pool still in there. Granted, we didn't see the picks and bans. So
True.
I will assume like an Athena was probably removed by one of them.
Slash probably, Anarchy probably.
Could have been a Slash. Movement, I imagine, was the main thing that was taken out of play. So that could have definitely encouraged this Galena choice from Chain. What it is going to do is just give you a bit more fortification. Being able to put down those totems in a matchup like this, where you rarely have the entire map in the palm of your hand. It's certainly big enough that you can control a certain area of it if you're keeping a close eye out. That Chain might be able to set up a little bit of a stronghold. Haven't had the chance to see it yet because the objective has been the most important, being able to take out these main items. CNZ going in for the Berserk, trying to pick up those items quickly and without risk, and actually takes a bunch of damage anyway. Rocket into rail combo, looking for the final bit of damage, but without the heavy machine gun, we only have the less accurate standard machine gun. So that, I've got to say, kind of fortunate for CNZ there that Chain didn't have the machine gun.
Very fortunate, yeah. No heavy machine gun, no rail ammo either, so he's not going to be able to play that range game, which is so crucial here on Blood Covenant. We're a minute and a half in, as both these players are going to be able to slow things down a bit. But both these players are quite passive in their own right. We can see CNZ is quite neutral. Chain's always been playing this way, but he's got a very strong mental fortitude. He's not going to get tilted too easily, and then nothing's going to really sway too much, but he's taking so much damage from the LG after going on that jump up. He's only on 34 HP, but he comes out with the rail. He's only on 3 HP. Will he look for the trade? Probably a little bit too late now, considering the size of the map and the spawn he got 2 minutes in.
Hey, that would have been a done deal for CNZ if Chain wasn't playing Galena. That totem was the only thing that kept him alive in that fight. And there you have it. 1-0, and now Chain in the lead, but barely. Man is tender. That Galena ain't looking too hot right now. And we're about to hit the quarter-way point. 2.5 minutes, right? 10 seconds until the Mega is about to spawn. In this instance, Chain is going to fortify, is going to look for those rails. Actually, at this point, looks like he's content to just kind of give it up. And that is something that is rather characteristic of Galena players. Some Galena players really prefer heavy control over Mega, because if you have those 3 totems, it's basically a Mega whenever you want it. If they have the armor, it's what you're taking away from them, giving yourself health at a moment's notice.
Got some of these groups, it's been unreal. We're going to have to check at some point exactly what is going on in the other groups as well, because we've had a few upsets in some previous games too.
Oh, I heard him shouting again just now.
That makes sense.
I heard him shouting again.
Got a lot of feedback on land. Anyways, 3 minutes in, Chain now still up 1-0, and is looking to try and push for that overstack rather than keeping these totems in his back pocket. So,
look at it.
Of course, CNZ, I know it's unreal. CNZ now looking to try and go for more of those hourglasses, but not really being too predictable yet. It's actually done so much damage here. Could make it 2-0. He has done beautiful shoddy shot, and that's going to be a free heavy for Chain.
So, CNZ did prioritize that light first, so there's going to be maybe a bonus here. The overstack is technically available, but I do think at this point, especially if CNZ wins this fight, he's going to be able to win the fight, take the item, and at the same time take out all of those totems. There were 2 totems down near the pillars. Actually did not use his chance to do that. So Chain, fresh off the spawn, has a bunch of weapons, and now has all 3 totems. CNZ, why didn't he look for him? Why didn't he scout him out? They were just to his right.
Oh, he's trying to go for that last rail, but it does take so much damage for that last LG. Chain comes out on top of that scuffle. And I would be as well, considering what we just saw there. And what I find quite... Oh, he's actually down to the top of his head in the end, and somehow gets away.
He balanced on his head. He balanced on his head the entire time, and it took him from platform to platform.
But the fight's still going, though. Caught him off guard with that LG. He's available, but it's going to be backing away. This is getting really messy, really quick so far, and it's not really both in their kind of traits to cause all of his chaos. But now he's back again. He's got the rail in hand. No rockets, no LG for CNZ. So he needs to be really careful with his position. He needs to really stand his ground, find out where Chain is, and then decide what weapons to go for next.
I'm glad that CNZ did take out a totem. It personally does feel like he hasn't put enough emphasis on getting rid of them at the moment. I'm sure he will take out this one now, but it has allowed Chain so much more stack. And sometimes, you know, the totem is right next to him. He just needs to simply glance in its direction and he'll see it. The fact that he hasn't been able to do that is unfortunate, to say the least. All right, rail fight, stuck in Berserk. That will not save you though. 30 health ain't enough. This might be only just, and there we go. More of those totems to take out.
So halfway point here. Chain still in with the lead. Trying to push for that Mega. 3 seconds until it's up next, but of course we know that he won't be able to gain it, but at least he'll be able to put a bit of damage onto him. But CNZ's actually been tanking the damage more than anything else, which should not be happening at this stage. And Chain's been looking so good right now. Just really playing it really patient, assuming where he's going to be. Good reads as well coming out. Textbook stuff here from Chain. This is that rail, but had a good read once more, and as you can see, the Mega is coming up in 10. So Chain is in a better position for it now, as CNZ has to back away.
It has often seemed like CNZ the one having to play the game of cat and mouse with Chain. And the problem is, you know, when these fights have broken out, Chain has been managing those totems wonderfully, keeping a solid level of control even without... Wait, how much damage did that machine gun do?
A bit too much.
What? Did he miss a single shot there? Didn't bloody look like it.
No, it didn't at all, but CNZ comes out with a rail of his own, gets the trade he required. I think it would have been a curtain call for him if that wasn't going to happen, but runs into the other totem. At least it's been taken down. No overstack for Chain. And CNZ, what is he going to do here? The good thing for CNZ, he has the mobility, unlike Chain. So at least that way it will give him a bit of leeway later on. As he's still just on the ropes, just been railed from the backside. That was nice of Chain to do that for him. As CNZ now managed to pick up the heavy, has the stack to work with, and needs to try and get to the Mega before he does. But again, Chain might not even go for it here, as he actually catches him, but he doesn't make the jump. He was trying to get there as fast as humanly possible. Not going to have him. Makes a good rotate around. Good rockets coming up from Chain, and the rail straight afterwards. Looks like Chain knows he's done enough damage, and is going to get away.
So, we're going to get a little bit more health there from CNZ as Chain disengages, and looks a little bit like we're going to prioritize the... Oh, wow, that angle. I like that choice, actually. Chain choosing to catch you from the bottom first. Put a lot of faith in hitting that first shot, otherwise you're going to have to make up a lot of ground without doing any damage whatsoever. 2 frags, doesn't sound like much, but on a map like Blood Covenant, trust me, that can be a substantial difference between winning and losing in those closing moments. CNZ, though, this is a critical point. We've got 2.5 minutes. We've got to get 2 frags, or just like that, our journey comes to an end.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Heavy's up, mind you, so CNZ picks that up, and at least he'll mess up the timing for Chain. CNZ still has the stack. Oh my god, he flew a little bit from bottom in an LG, and you were talking about the bottom in position earlier. He seems to be able to take advantage of that. And CNZ just isn't expecting it. He's not assuming he's going to be there. So he had good reads before, but now the reads become a little bit more difficult. He goes up for the Mega. He's going to come up with that LG bout. 1 HP in a dream, but he needs to hit 2 rails in order to try and get that 3rd frag. But of course, Chain going back to the heavy machine gun to secure the 5th and potentially the final, depending on the circumstances.
And it looks like Chain continuing to pile on what is already a frustrating lead that CNZ has to fight. Time is running out now, less than 2 minutes on the clock, and Chain starting to really turn things around. Chain, a player known for unbelievable land performances, but let's be real, CNZ being a little bit more inconsistent, I must say, which is a real shame, because moments of greatness. Lovely rocket there on the drop down, direct as direct gets, but a minute 15, you got to get 2. Okay, we're pushing forward. Good use of our rocket, looking for the rail. We find it! And now, this just became so much more possible, Lethal.
Certainly has been now. 1 minute left, 1 frag deficit between the 2. It looked like the realm of possibility there, but it seems like he's going to bring this back. And they've got plenty of time, and he has the mobility from the Doom, and he's going to catch him here, but he probably heard him drop, but can see CHA1N just getting ready to use those defensive rockets to wait for it to come through one of his passageways, but we'll be able to find him. But he actually had the LG in hand and kept him back a little bit.
It's not in his favour. CNZ, this is not in his favour. He has to sort of disengage at some point. Unfortunately, walks himself into one of the totems as well. That is unfortunate because now he's got to build up his stack. But it's never going to be enough to match CHA1N, and he's got 30 seconds left. Everything lies in those 20 seconds on the clock. I'm a bit worried here. He's pushing in. The fight.
Good rockets.
Rocket. He lands it! 5 frags apiece, and CNZ equalizes with 10 seconds left.
One way to keep himself in this matchup. We will go to sudden death shortly. Heavy's up in 3 seconds, and CNZ is still going to have a reasonably great stack here, continuing on to try and get this 6th and final frag. We will go to sudden death. But my goodness, look at all the totals about with the overstack from CHA1N. It's going to be very difficult now for CNZ, but he needs to try and put a stamp into these totems.
Lovely start. First things first, we take the Mega. The second step, take out a totem. That's objective 1. Keep our stack higher than CHA1N on the understanding that he's going to be able to build it up in the middle of the fight. You've got to factor that in, and you've got to be ready. Do not put yourself in these weird close-range situations. Gets a good read on that, looks for a rail, takes that split second just to line up the shot. Wonderful, because it leads to more damage, taking that with the heavy. This means that the map control belongs to CNZ. But is the series going to belong? Lovely rocket. Prevented the Mega from being picked up. There's now no armor. CNZ, you need to hit these rails. That first one didn't hit its mark, and that is unfortunate because now CNZ, he's going to collect himself some more armor. Take that away from CHA1N. There's not much left on the map. There is a heavy in play, but CHA1N is nowhere to be seen.
2 medium champions in a tied sudden death game on Blood Covenant. What's new? We've seen that so many times. Back to it again, but CNZ with the stack and looking to now get full map dominance here once this Mega's being picked up. But at least CHA1N has the timing, but CHA1N needs to really keep his distance and go for that chip. A couple of rails will help him give a bit more time to breathe, so to speak. But yeah, my goodness, as if he was at 5-2 at one stage and just hit that last previous rail, looking to try and push it on forward to see if he can find him once again. CHA1N is actually with his back turner with the rockets. Will be able to take him down. The Heavy hasn't been able to yet. Trying to clear up the shotgun. One more rail will do it. CHA1N manages to take him down with that rail, and it means that CNZ will be out from the group stage. What? No! That was, to me, that looked like it was guaranteed. Like, literally there and then.
How? CHA1N, how?
God.
That shotgun hit nothing. The shotgun just hit nothing. He went all in, dedicated everything. The chips were down. Everything lined up. You look at it statistically and you think there is no way on this earth he doesn't win that fight. But the second it missed, and then the second there was no damage, and the second I saw a rail in CHA1N's hand, almost that whole thing looked like it happened in slow motion.
Yeah, it was like it was just a matter of time. I just can't believe the damage from that shoddy at the end. Like, you could see that CNZ was so convinced that this is going to be the way for me to finish the series, end it the 2-1, to see what happens with groups afterwards.
It's a disaster.
I'd have to watch that back just to see exactly what occurred in terms of not his aim skill, but amount of damage that shoddy did. But my God, what a way for CHA1N to secure that series. Unreal.
Well, that was CNZ versus CHA1N. I believe we're going to be going to a break and set up the rest of our B-Stream matches. We're going to need a minute for that, and I'm sure you do at home as well. So we'll see you in a few minutes.